It doesn't mean that professional is better than amateur. It just means like, which one do we prefer and which one are we willing to pay the price for?
You are listening to the Decluttering Club Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Mueller, and it's my mission to equip women to declutter their homes, their time, and their lives so that they can cherish what truly matters.
You are listening to the Decluttering Club Podcast, episode number 41. Are you willing to pay the price? This is a really important question. I think this is a question that most people do not consider when they dive into decluttering. And so I have a story I want to tell you. And before I get into that, I want to let you know I am in the kitchen right now. My kitchen's at my house is being renovated. So I apologize for the sound quality. We're just going to have to make the best of it. Okay. So as I mentioned, my house is currently being renovated. We're getting new kitchen. They're refinishing the floors. They're painting, new cabinet doors, all kinds of amazing things, right? And I hired an amazing company to do this work. And I was really, really surprised at how much work it is taking for them to do this job, right? So they recently painted the ceiling and they're getting ready to paint the walls in the kitchen. And then the family room, it's kind of like a big open room. They just painted and they're finishing, moving on to doing some more painting. And I remarked to the guys that were doing this job, I was like, wow, it takes a lot of work for you to even get ready to paint. And they were like, yeah, it does. It does. And I thought, isn't this interesting? Because, I've painted rooms before. You probably have too. I've never painted a ceiling, and I wouldn't have the tools or the ability to do that even decently, but I have painted walls before. And I was kind of thinking, that's very interesting because, if I think about painting a room, I think about a little spackle, a little sanding, some tape, and you're good to go, right? You're done in like a day and a half. Well, turns out if you want exceptional, high quality results, you're going to have to put in more time than this. And, the guys that were doing this work, I said to them, wow, it's a lot of work, isn't it? And they were like, yeah, it is. Now, they weren't overwhelmed. They weren't rushing. They weren't in a panic, but they also were putting in the time. And this is the difference between an amateur, right? An amateur painter, that's me, and professionals, right? The professionals don't get overwhelmed. They know what it takes and they're able to get the job done, but it takes time and they're willing to put in the time. Whereas for me, I would have probably been really frustrated and, kind of over it before it was done. And my work, the results that I would be able to get wouldn't be anywhere near what they're going to get. So I hired these guys because I wanted a certain result, right? I wanted a certain standard and a certain result. And I was willing to pay them to do this job the way I wanted to have it done. I wasn't willing for me to put in the time, and I probably couldn't even have done it the way that they're going to do it. But I was willing to write the check and have them do the work. And so what does this have to do with decluttering? Well, a lot, it turns out. Because the thing is, so many of you say things like, why is this taking so long? Or why am I not done yet? And it's like you want professional level results. You want it to look just so, you want it to look perfect, but you're not willing to pay the price. And we can either pay the price in our own time, right? In the time to do the work, maybe to learn the skills, right? These painters did not become professional painters overnight. I'm sure of that, right? So you got to be willing to either put in the time to learn and then do, or if you don't want to do it yourself, then you got to be willing to pay the price to have someone else do it, right? And so that is the real difference here. If you are professional, or if you want professional results, you're willing to pay the price and you're willing to put in the work. There's a book by a guy called Steven Pressfield, and he talks about how professionals, right? Professionals may be just as scared as amateurs. Like, think about a professional author. They're probably very wrapped up in their work. It's not that they're not scared. It's not that they're not wondering, is this going to work out? But they do it anyway. And they know what it takes. They're willing to put in the work. And that is the difference, right? Between amateurs and professionals, and between amateur results and professional results. Now, the thing is, neither of these are good or bad. I don't want us to attach moral judgments, right? Like, you might be perfectly happy with the room that you painted. In fact, you might like it more because you painted it, or the picture that your kid painted. It doesn't mean that professional is better than amateur. It just means, like, which one do we prefer and which one are we willing to pay the price for? So I see a lot of you wanting those professional level results. You're like, I want it done right, but you aren't willing to pay the price. You're not willing to put in the work, or, pay the dollars to have someone else do it, or pay the dollars to, to hire the dumpster, right? And so that's where you have this mismatch. And then you're frustrated because you don't get what you want. Maybe you want to skip the preparation, or you want to skip and delay making the decisions because they're so hard. And then you're like, why is this taking so long? Well, it's very clear, isn't it? And again, I don't want this to create shame and judgment in your mind. I just want to show you the differences here. Okay. And because when you see the differences, now you can decide how to proceed differently if you want to. Right now you realize, oh, that is where I've been going wrong. That's why I'm frustrated, because my expectations of getting it done fast and also not having to do the work, they're not lining up with what I want, the result that I'm looking for. And so now I know why I'm frustrated, and I know what to do about it if I want to change something. I hear so many of you say things like, I need to look through every box. That might be worth something. I need to sell this. This is like, it has to be done this way. But then you don't want to do it because it's a lot of work. And I don't blame you. Like, who wants to do all of that? You really have to be in on the commitment to do the work in the way that you want it done. Now, what's even worse is that, and this is what we do as human beings, right? We're like, okay, I'm just going to, I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to get it done. You kind of grit your teeth and push through, or maybe you resist doing that not because of what it's going to look like on the other side, right? That's not the problem. But the problem is that that when you get to the other side and you're done, you're going to beat yourself up because you're not going to be happy about it, because your expectations don't line up with the price you're willing to pay, right? And I'm going to get to be done, and then I'm going to be like, why'd you do it that way? You should have sold something. Maybe you're going to miss it, right? Your brain is going to fire up all these objections about how you did it wrong, and that is very, very painful. And so your body sooner or later is going to shut down and say, I'm not willing to do that. Like, I'm on strike here because of what I know is coming down the pike for me, because this is what you've done to me in the past. It's like we're our own worst boss, right? It's like you are the boss that is completely demanding, never gives breaks, says nasty things to you, and then is mad when the work isn't very good at the end of the day, right? Sooner or later, that employee goes on strike. And that's what happens when you just can't get moving, when you cannot get off the couch, or when you can't bear to think about opening another box. That is exactly what is happening. Your body and part of you is rebelling against that, that maniacal boss that is go, go, go and demanding, but won't give you the resources, won't give you the time to do the job, up to the standards that you're trying to set. So I want you to realize that it takes time to develop a skill, and decluttering and organizing is a skill, right? We teach it to you. You can learn it, but it doesn't mean that you're going to learn it overnight. It doesn't mean that it's going to be easy at first. And so you need to give yourself time to learn, to practice, and to try things out. It takes time. Now, the other flip side of that is that it's okay if you don't want to put in that time. It's okay if you're like, you know what, I really want it done this way, but also I don't want to do that. Like, that is not something I am willing to do. Guess what? These are all just choices and options, and you can take any one of them that you pick. No one is going to tell you that you're doing it wrong. Mostly it's just our own heads that are telling us that we're doing it wrong. So be okay if that is not a choice that you want to make, and if you have other priorities. So I want to encourage you to look at your decluttering as a professional would, right? Consider your prep. Consider what price are you willing to pay, right? If these guys had come to me and told me it's going to cost $20,000 to paint your walls the way you want it, I would have said, yeah, probably not. I'll figure something else out. That is not a price I'm willing to pay, but I was okay with the price that they offered me, right? And so This is how we can do it. We can approach it as a professional. We can make a good plan, put in the time, show up even when you don't feel like it, right? Those guys were at my house basically in a snowstorm. They showed up for work, right? They made up the day after one day when they couldn't make it up the hill, right? They're professionals. Doesn't mean they don't have feelings, doesn't mean they don't get tired, but they do things in a certain way, right? Because of the price that we're willing to pay. And I want you to just approach your decluttering like that. When you ask things like, why is it taking so long? Or, or why me? Or, why can't this be easier? You're basically asking for something that you didn't pay for. And again, this can feel very judgmental, but it's not meant to be that way. I just want to show you the situation, right? And all the variables, right? You can't get something that you didn't pay for. And again, we pay for it either with our time or with our money. Right? And when you start looking at it that way, now you can make an informed decision about where you want to put your time and your money, right? And it's totally fine to decide, you know what, that is not worth it to me. In fact, I am the first person to tell you that you are in charge of your time, and it is very important for you to make those choices intentionally. And so if it means that you look through every piece of paper, or that you shred every piece of paper, or that you label every photo, and that's important to you, I'm all in on that, right? But if you are like, you know what, that is just like, I would love to do it that way, but I just can't bring myself to do it, no problem. All good, right? Now, at least we're making choices intentionally on purpose. And then when your brain is like, but, you should have, you can say, no, I shouldn't have, because I was not up for that. I did not buy into that. So no, that is not true. And we're just going to start thinking about this in a new way. So stop asking, why is this taking so long? Why is this so hard? And start asking, what price am I willing to pay? And then go and solve for that. I'll see you next week, everyone.
That's all we have for you today. If you enjoyed this podcast, would you leave us a review? It would really help us get the word out. To start your decluttering journey, go to thedeclutteringclub.com. That is declutteringclub.com. We'll see you next time.